Hello, Teach Better family. Welcome, welcome. My name is Katie Miglin, and I am here with the wonderful Dana Curby, who is not a new face to our community, but maybe someone that you have not had an opportunity to learn from. So, super excited to dive in today. Our topic today is pitfalls and strategies through mastery learning. So, kind of what pitfall you might fall into, and then how do you overcome that? And so, this is not a new topic to either one of us. We've had many conversations about this. So go ahead and drop in the comments where you're at and what you hope to get out of tonight to help kind of guide our discussion as well. And yeah, we'll be back in just about, 30 seconds. All right. Well, like I said, my name is Katie Miglin, and we are here tonight to talk through something that is specifically meant to help kind of everybody. But this idea came from our remote edX grant that we are working with 16 ESCs in Ohio. And just to kind of give some quick tips and tangible takeaways that you can implement back in the classroom. This will be recorded and posted. So if you want to check it out later, we strongly encourage you to do so. But tonight, specifically, we are talking about pitfalls and solutions to mastery learning and kind of how do we get through those hiccups that are natural to happen. So I could not think of anyone better when I saw this topic than Dana Curby, who I worked with many, many years, learned a ton from. But Dana, go ahead, and it's weird to call you Dana, by the way.
I know, right?
Yes.
So weird.
Typically, I call you Curby, so I'm going to do that for the sake of this conversation. But Curby, can you tell everybody kind of who you are, where you're from, what do you do, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So Dana Curby, I teach at Evans Junior High School. Again, taught with Katie for a long time. We, I believe, opened the school together. And so I've been at Evans for about 12 years. We got about 800 kids and 6, 7, 8, so middle school focused. I have taught the elementary level before. I have taught at the high school level before. I also teach adapted PE this year and a couple of years previously. So I kind of have a wide background and range of different abilities of students. And so I think that has definitely brought a different avenue for myself as a teacher, for sure. Been in the Unit 5 for 20 years. So been around for a few years. Let's put it that way.
A little bit. Well, if you're not familiar with Evans or with Unit 5, that is located in Central Illinois. Where Curby has been for a long time. Yes, we had the pleasure of opening a building together, which was so cool. It was such an awesome experience.
Yeah.
But one of the things, Curby, that was kind of fun is, I taught math, you taught PE, very different in many lights. However, we both kind of were drawn to this idea many years ago of mastery learning. And I think we both kind of had the same mindset of like, that what we're doing isn't meeting all the needs of our students. And so we have to change it up. And so through this journey, we connected and we figured out that we were both kind of doing similar work. And so tonight, what I'm really kind of looking forward to is just kind of talking through the many things that we talked through, literally just standing in the hallway.
Yep.
And that's something that I think so many people kind of do is they learn from their colleagues in an informal way, which is what we did. But we decided let's record it tonight and share it with all of you. And hopefully some of you can benefit from it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So Curby, let's kind of get started into like the idea of mastery learning. So what does that look like in a PE and a health classroom kind of first? Let's paint the picture.
I guess part of that, I left that out in my intro as well, right? I teach PE and health. So, well, Katie taught math and, we have to appreciate that as well. The important things like PE and health, I think I was gifted by being able to teach with Michael Jennings, who has been a part of this group a few times as
Yep.
well. And he is just a plethora of knowledge. And so
Mhm.
I think he really, again, talking about coworkers and being involved and that type of thing, I think Michael is the guy that kind of got the ball rolling for me personally. So um, that created some excitement to be able to try something new and different and try to reach more kids, I think,
Mhm.
and really start to kind of get a grasp on where kids are at. And this was pre-COVID, if that
Yeah.
makes a difference, which I think it kind of does.
Yeah.
um, but again, we kind of, as my department did, I'm the department chair. We have 5 people in our department, which I think kind of is important for us to mention. As we kind of talked about this, there's been some turnover in my department since we started this process as well. And I think one of the things that really stuck out to me is when we do things, we kind of jump all in, and
You do.
we we tend to say, "Oh, well, we'll figure it out as we go," which I think has been a huge benefit.
Mhm.
So I would definitely call that a peak for sure. But that's kind of just our mentality of things.
Yep.
Let's give it a try. If it fails, it fails, and if it's successful, well, then great. How can we fix it and
Mhm.
make it even better?
Yep.
Um, I think along the way, I think we figured out that there is definitely um, a large learning curve, I think is a
Mhm.
good way to put it. And Katie and I have been talking about, what is the message that we really want to send tonight, and what kind of, for me specifically, what's the message that I want to send tonight. And I think that message for sure is, we it's not all going to happen right away, and I think
Yeah.
we still jump in feet first, and at some point we'll hit the water. I think that's one thing that is important, that we have changed things almost every year,
Mhm.
that we have continued to teach mastery learning, and um, we start to kind of see what's working and how the kids have changed. And I think that, Katie
Yes.
and I talked earlier about, what's our message, but at the same time, I've been thinking about it since then, and it's like the kids really have changed. And so
Yes.
how are we able to still continue to reach those kids? And I believe through mastery learning is a definite benefit to be able to reach all those kids, honestly, Katie.
Well, I 100% agree. I think that when we started this journey, of really kind of giving students the tools to find
Yeah.
success in their own way, that was years ago.
Hmm.
And kids have evolved, times have evolved. What we
Hmm.
utilize in our classrooms has totally evolved. And so it's important to understand that the root of what we were doing has remained the same. It's
Yes.
the idea that we're giving students all the tools they need so that they can find success and continue to work towards that mastery level of understanding, but what works for them, and not this like cookie cutter, everyone's got to get there the same way or the same how the same time frame, anything. It's what works for each individual student, but still getting to that same end goal.
So I recently I gave a quiz, and PE. There are specific units, I feel like, that we use for mastery learning more so than others. And it's
Mhm.
the beginning of the year. We hadn't really gotten into mastery learning in PE. A lot of our mastery learning is kind of focused more in health, but
Okay.
we do some obviously in PE as well. And so one of the things that I feel like has been interesting for me to see, is I just gave a test. I gave a little quiz, and I
Mhm.
said, here's the information that you could use to take this quiz. You could use Google. You could use the slide presentations that we have. So I'm trying to give them, multiple resources, and
Mhm.
how it was very interesting for me to be able to kind of go around and see kids work and where they were looking at for their information. Were they looking at Google? Did they look at the slide presentations that I had provided? Were they, attempting to kind of create the question in their head and figure it out on their previous knowledge?
Mhm.
Or, how is that working for each student? And so I think that it was a great learning opportunity for me to be able, at the very beginning of the year, to kind of go around and get a better feel for where my students were at,
Mhm.
what they were using as their resources, and how they were coming up with answers. Um, it was just and I hadn't done that previously.
Okay.
In this aspect, I guess, of things.
Mhm.
And so it was just very interesting for me to kind of see that so early in the year. Super awesome.
Well, I think you really kind of hit some big things is that you gave them here's some different things you could use. You know, you listed some possibilities of what they could use, but then while they were finding the information they needed, you were also collecting information to see how they were learning best so that you could make the next step for yourself and for your instruction, which is super important.
Correct. And I think as we've kind of seen kids evolve, like again, as we talked about post
Mhm.
COVID and kids just changing, kids being
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
times being different. And one of the things that I saw with my sixth graders is I don't know that they understood all of their resources that they could use or were available or potentially
Hmm.
didn't take the time to use initially.
Yeah.
So I recently gave a second quiz. A decent portion of my kids didn't do as well as I think they expected to do on the first quiz. And
Mhm.
so I had given them a second quiz and I kind of said, okay, before you even take this quiz, let's take a step back. Let's review. Let's go through and let's answer some of these questions together. Where are you finding this information at? Where are you bringing this from?
Mhm.
And then it was good also to see the other kids in the class as students would raise their hand, and oh, well, how about where I could get it here? I could get it at Google. I could get it.
Mhm.
And other kids, oh, yeah. Oh, I know where that's at. So then again, you're starting to see that, oh, I'm not learning from the teacher. We're learning from somebody else.
Yeah, and learning
Super
from
helpful.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting that you gave some sort of assessment, they didn't do well, and then you were like, "Okay, let's reflect," because that is mastery learning. It's figuring out where you are at in your own learning and
Mm-hmm.
identifying the process and kind of, "Here's something I'm struggling with. How am I going to figure it out so then I can move forward?" And that essentially is what it is. So when we think kind of mastery learning in general, you and I both obviously it looked very different in our classrooms, a
Yes.
math
Yes.
classroom versus,
Mm-hmm.
PE and health. But we would come together and I felt like it was inevitable. Probably once a week, we would like find each other. Kirby, for reference, taught like way on the other end of the building,
Yep.
and I was on the second floor. So, our paths rarely crossed.
Right.
But when we would look, we'd find each other and it's like, hey, here's an issue I'm facing. What are you doing? And so it was funny today, we were kind of brainstorming like what were our big things that we approached each other. And it was
Yep.
funny to say sometimes it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like it was you just needed a
Well,
different perspective.
it I was listening to you guys this morning talk, you and Ray, and I was like, okay, well, first off, what I need to say tonight is you need to find a Ray and you need to find a Katie Miglin. Whoever those people are, whether they are online friends of yours or they are, in your building. I was spoiled. I had both of them in my building. So when I'm sitting behind my computer and oh, I'm working hard and oh, it's not working. What do I do? Well, I'm just going to go up and interrupt Ray or Katie and
Yep.
figure out the answer. Which again, like as I thought about, I'm like, gosh, you just need people. You need
Yes.
people to kind of like you guys said this morning, just process through some things.
Yep.
As Ray said, I'm going to hold my cup of coffee. By the way, guys, that was totally accurate. I'm going to hold my cup of coffee and I'm going to go talk to whoever can help me process through this,
Mhm.
and create that sense of seeing something from a different perspective and not getting in that tunnel vision of this is how I'm seeing it. Because again, then me as the learner, even though I'm the teacher, right? Me as the learner
Mhm.
is still being able to kind of interpret what others someone else might see,
Right. Well,
whether
and
it's your class or mine. I mean, whatever.
exactly, because sometimes it was like a specific, how are you structuring this so students can consume the information?
Yes.
And sometimes it was like the logistics. It was, okay, I've been rolling with this for a few days and students are not getting to the goal that I had in my head,
Yes.
whatever the specifics was. But sometimes it's nice to have an intentional pause and someone completely on the outside go, have you tried this? And so
So,
it just gives you like kind of a fresh start in a sense, a
mhm,
fresh lens, because you're
yes.
right. When you're in it and you're working with it, it's like
Mhm.
easy to kind of just get blinded by some of the things that are maybe more obvious.
So that's the other thing too, like, as there were certain aspects that maybe I would ask Ray about because, it was maybe let's specifically, I don't know, a mastery learning question of some sort,
Mhm.
a setup. But then there are things like, Katie, you and I go talk. Okay, you and I set up our actual classrooms more similar than Ray and
Yeah.
I. And
Yeah.
so I think it was easier for you and I to be able to kind of bounce ideas off each other, or find that
Mhm.
solution, than it was sometimes for Ray and I to talk, just because it was more similar how we had our website, or
Yep.
whatever it was
Yep.
set up, how we were getting information to kids.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I told you this earlier today, but I'll tell it again. I I have a life learning skill now that Katie Miglin has taught me. And that life learning skill is, when you go to paste that link in there, select edit, erase that, and hit copy, and just makes that copy for all those kids. Like,
In the
I mean, you don't have to make
URL.
copies then, right? Like,
Right.
it's a
Exactly.
great thing. You're saving on paper and trees and a whole nine
Yes.
yards. But
Look at that. So one of the things we kind of would hit on was, if you're struggling, if you're kind of in one of these pitfalls, we'll use
yep,
the wording from our title.
yes,
Find your group, whether, like you said, it's someone down the hall who is working through similar ideas and similar
hmm
teaching philosophies as you, or turn somewhere virtual. But you said this earlier today when we were talking, but have those people ready, have them already thought through as you're doing this planning of, okay, when I actually start to implement this, if things go astray, who am I going to get a hold of? Because you said it perfectly. If you're in the middle of it and you're struggling with a moment in this mastery learning, whether it's grid specific or not,
yep,
you are unlikely to go watch a video, take
hmm
an academy course, because you're right in the moment and you need it addressed immediately. Those things are great for 100 other reasons, but in that moment, you need someone you can reach out to. So having that bank of names is essential.
And again, I think, I've been in a different conference, and one of the things that was brought up in that conference was, you're in the middle of a lesson, right? You teach the lesson, and most times people might teach a lesson multiple times a day,
Yeah.
right? So you're in the middle of that lesson, and you're like, oh, this isn't working right, but I can't quite figure it out, right? You know what? I'm going to pull out my cell phone, and I'm going to get on Twitter, and get my Twitter group going. Is what's it? How can I help? How can we
Yep.
fix this? I need it for next hour, right?
Hmm.
Even that, again, it's essential to be able to kind of have that. And I mean, I
Yep.
know we're not going to be walking around with our phones like this all the time by any means, but at the same time, I check my phone throughout the day, right? Like, how
Hmm.
can I help someone else too? That's the other thing too. I think sometimes people get kind of caught up in what they're doing,
Yes.
and being able to, kind of put yourself out there and take that 5 or 10 minutes, and just say, okay, well, I'll help you. I'll help you. Let's figure
Mhm.
this out. I'll help you. I
Absolutely.
think is pivotal to being
Mhm.
able to have that community support, and be able to be successful, and feel like, oh gosh, I have that community with me.
Yes. Yes.
So,
So you're in it, you're kind of working through, you've got your bank of names, you've got your teacher besties that you know you can go to.
yep.
But I'm going to be honest, Kirby, one of my biggest pitfalls, and I'm a type A personality. Anyone who knows me knows this. One of my biggest pitfalls where I was like big pitfall was not having everything organized so that
hmm
I didn't have to be the sole provider of everything. And I think you know what I mean, but
Yep.
simple things like it says that they need to grab a worksheet. Well, where are they going to get the worksheet? I don't want them to have to always come to me, or they need this checked. Am I the only one
Yep.
checking? And I can remember early on feeling so overwhelmed because I was like constantly being like, there was someone near me at all times. Like, hey, I need this. Can
Yes.
you check this? Can you conference with me? So that I think is a thing for me. That's like my big pitfall, is being able to have all of your ducks in a row so that your students can truly find success in this mastery learning.
So I think I kind of hit on this earlier when I said it's changed for me multiple times over the last few years. This right here, Katie, is probably the one thing for me that has really changed from
Mhm.
beginning to where I'm currently at. And that is, I'm not grading everything. I don't need to grade everything, and I don't need to check everything.
Yep.
However, how I set up my grid, or how I set up my learning, I need to be able for those students to be able to apply some of those things, right? So,
Mhm.
for example, in health class, nutrition, let's say, they have to, track food for 2 days, and then in a couple of slots down, now we're working on, okay, how am I going to evaluate my diet? Well, if I
Mhm.
haven't tracked my diet, I can't evaluate my diet. So
Right.
right there is a kid's way. And I point that out to them very early on in the year. If you look at this grid, specifically this grid, what are the things that you're absolutely have to do, because you won't be able to do something
Yep.
else, you know? And so as that for me has been huge, because before I would have had a line 10 kids long,
Mhm.
everybody's got 5 things for me to check. Now
Mhm.
we're wasting time because kids are standing in line for me to check thing or have their hand in the air because I'm just waiting, Coach Kirby, I'm just waiting. Well, we can't, it's a waste.
Mhm.
That's not kids being independent, that's not kids working on their own and progressing. So I think for me that was probably the biggest thing, is just that class setup for sure.
Absolutely. And just thinking through the details, and I agree with you, that didn't happen after the first
Mm-hmm.
grid or, first time with mastery learning.
Right.
That took kind of a live and learn. It took,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they need to know how to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't need to be the person that can provide it. So even recording a 30-second video with instructions so they
Yep.
can listen to it a couple times, pause it if they need to. Like those are the important things of laying out so that you can focus on what matters and what's important. The small group instruction, the
Yep.
reteaching, all of those things that we are using our time for, that it's intended for, is super important.
This is also why I kind of went back and redid this quiz. And I only redid this quiz earlier that I was talking about with 6th grade, because it's so pivotal for what's going to happen in the future. And if I didn't take the time to go back and reteach, because I clearly saw that
Yeah.
kids didn't get it, if I didn't take the time to reteach, I might as well not have continued on with the lessons anyway, right? So
Right.
just the skill, right? If in my
Mhm.
20 years of teaching, that is the one thing. Take the time, go slow, it
Yes.
will help in the long run. You know,
Absolutely.
that is huge for me.
Yeah. Okay, so Kirby, we've kind of hit on a lot of things in our time together, which we knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to
Yes, we
go
did.
fast. We
15
called
minutes?
that.
No way.
Yes, exactly. So, kind of the big takeaways, if you're someone that's consuming this later, maybe you got us in your ears and you've been kind of working on other stuff, is mastery learning is a process. It is something that will continue to evolve as you continue to work with it, work with your students. It'll look different from year to year with student group to student group. But the important part is to be reflective and have those groups of people, whether they're virtual or in person, that
Mhm.
can be there for you to throw ideas out, for you to, get some feedback. Maybe it's Kirby and I. Maybe you need to reach out to us. We're happy to, support you virtually, but come up with those ways that when you're struggling in the moment,
Mhm.
who are you going to turn to so that you can get those answers, and so you don't feel that defeated for very long, and you feel like there's an actual solution and you can keep moving. The other piece is laying out all of the details, getting everything ready. And you may not know some of those details when you start, and that's okay. But making notes so that every day you can get a little bit better. And so if you think, oh, I forgot to tell the kids this, maybe that's how you start the lesson the next
Yep.
day, and
Yep.
constantly be building on that so that students have literally all the tools they need so that you can continue to kind of facilitate as needed and not worry about those little details.
Absolutely.
Did I summarize
Perfect.
it okay?
Yep, that was that. And again, reach out for sure.
Yep.
And it's not going to be perfect. It's just like teaching. It will take a long time to set up, and
Yep.
then it just, you get to watch it unfold, kind of like a play, right? You practice a play for a long time, and then you just get to watch it unfold. It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible.
Yes, I 100% agree. And don't get defeated. Keep problem solving. We are here to support you. You can reach us at either one of our handles that are right underneath us. But Kirby, this has been so fun to just talk shop, something we haven't had a chance to do. So I totally appreciate you giving up your Wednesday night. What day is it?
Yeah,
Wednesday.
it's already Wednesday.
Woo! Wednesday night to kind of talk through this stuff, and keep working hard in your classrooms. Keep pushing yourself, and let us know how the journey goes. Thanks, guys, for joining us.